We could talk about anything, I think.
Well, I just want to go off
You
topic.
throw a steak on the table, we'll talk about
You want to talk about steaks?
Yeah, I think I could go for a juicy pork chop.
We have one more viewer submitted question. And if you too would like to send us a suggestion for a future video, you could send it to totl@abyssheadphones.com. Maybe we'll do it in a future episode
TOTL.
at abyssheadphones.com. So Sandor writes, Sandor? I don't know, whatever. Anyways,
enough.
there's a picture of Diana 5 with a Sony portable player on your website.
Oh, that one.
What portable players would you recommend for a Diana V2? The purpose would be listening to music on my home in various rooms using home Wi-Fi streaming from Tidal and my NAS.
Well,
That's more than we do with portables.
you couldn't use this Sony for Wi-Fi. 'cause
Yeah, it doesn't do
have
that.
it.
Yeah, there's plenty of players that do.
Yeah.
It is a non-RF device.
The new ones are.
There's a few options. Depends on the budget, depends on the complexity you're looking for. In the low end, we think the iFi XCAN, as we have presented over here, does a pretty good job, but you got to do it Bluetooth off another device. So if you have a phone, if you're cool with that, you could have that thing hooked in your pocket and you control everything through your phone wirelessly to the device, which is kind of nice. You don't need to have the wire or the headphones going into the device that you carry in your hand. You can stream whatever you want, of course, but it's not the last word in fidelity.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
Phones are a great source. You know,
Well, you probably already have everything organized that you normally listen to on
all
them.
your
for
apps and
take it to the car and
titles
whatnot,
in
you
it,
know.
whatever.
Yeah, you got your rich
right.
app ecosphere over there to
Yeah.
be able to run whatever it is you want to do, whatever streaming service, local media, whatever. And that's nice. And it's a familiar setting because the one challenge with a lot of these dApps is a lot of times they're very different than what people are used to, so people find them to be hard to use.
Yeah, it's a whole different operating system, so you got to
Yeah.
get used to where all the buttons are, all the.
They customize them too. So
yeah, right.
They're all
So,
different.
Yeah, so there's a learning curve, but I mean, it's not hard once you get
No.
used to it. Usually, they're fairly intuitive.
Usually.
People talk about when they review these things, they talk about that too,
Yeah.
like how easy it is to use and stuff.
But if
so-
you're doing more advanced stuff, especially
yeah.
if you want to do like music streaming, local files off of NAS, that could be a little more fickle on certain devices. But a lot of them are capable of doing that.
Well, I think like if you're going to do Tidal on some of them, you're running like a Tidal app on it, so then they're pretty uniform then
Yeah.
in the usage.
well, some of the players, the higher end players, they could probably. Can you stream Tidal on them? I think they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
So
lot
they're-
of them you can.
Because they're running a.
They're Android
Yeah,
usually.
right.
Yeah, usually
so-
there is run Android.
So it's basically a phone without
It's a
cellular.
phone, yeah.
Yeah, so
Pretty
I mean,
much.
so in the higher end, there's all kinds of players. We don't really get involved with a lot of that. So we, unfortunately, we're not references here for choosing what portable is what.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem with our headphones is power. They require some power. So usually you're looking at, with a Diana, I mean, going portable, at least a few hundred milliwatts, at least.
Like if you're indoors, it's probably
Yeah.
like 200-300 is probably fine.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
pretty quiet.
Even in a show setting, we've gotten away with like half a watt at portable, and in a show with a really loud background, but you're at full volume, playing it with 85 dB background noise.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there are some portables out there that do more than that now, and there are portable amplifier choices like IFI makes some lower cost stuff that's really good.
Well, or you just get an portable amp,
Yeah.
and then plug it into your phone.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
which is kind of that Bluetooth.
same kind of thing. Yeah.
This
Same deal.
$300 unit is great.
iFi has a few options, and more power isn't typically a bad thing.
No.
But you don't really need it. Over a few hundred milliwatts is pretty decent for home use for Diana V2. Usually past that, the sonic character matters more. And that's where it gets a little tricky. We can't really have necessarily very specific recommendations because we haven't heard and used everything on the market at the moment.
Yeah.
So
You're going to be above
generally
a
the
grand.
high-end players are good.
Yeah, you're going to be
But-
you'll be looking above $1,000 or so, $1,000
Yeah.
bucks or so at least when you get into the better quality player.
Well, and you're probably going to have to run it balanced because most of them there's a huge discrepancy between the balanced
Oh,
and
right. They usually have
unbalanced.
more power out on the balanced.
Yeah.
That's usually nowadays most are running the 4.4 millimeter,
or 2.5.
the Sony Penacon or 2.5. Yeah, which is kind of going toward the 4.4.
Depends on
Luckily,
the size of the device, really.
yeah, right.
The biggest issue we run into with portable devices usually is the voltage they're willing to put out. A lot of times it's really low. So the
Because they're running
power-
on battery.
Right.
Because they're running on battery,
Yeah.
they're trying to be efficient. They're not running super high rail voltages. So usually you need to run balanced to get the most power out of them. And the ratings of power can be misleading. They could tell you power ratings into low impedance, very low impedance headphones. And so you say, oh, well, it's capable of putting out 5 watts. But it might be 5 watts into 4 ohms, 6, 8 ohms, or something misleading like that. And if you have a headphone that's 40 or 50 ohms, you're not going to get anywhere near that. So it's something to watch out for. Ideally, you want to see a few volts, maybe 6+ volts.
Yeah,
peak to
like
peak.
I think 9 or more, ideally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be good.
12 is a good number.
You break 10, you're doing good.
Above 10 's
but it's
good.
hard to
Above
see in
10.
portables.
Yeah, because then you're
Yeah.
talking a portable that can do something into
Yeah.
a load. Especially if you have a higher impedance headphone, I think there are kind of issues with portables too. When you're running like a 300 ohm,
Well, it can be,
Ours
yeah.
aren't,
Yeah.
but I mean they're more sensitive. But still, you're looking for
Right.
a little more gain with a headphone like that. But yeah, do we answer the question?
Kind of. Yeah. Really, any high-end player does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But it's tricky because you can't really recommend one over another. Maybe in absolute fidelity, it's possible, but they have different feature sets, very different price points, different sizes and styles, different interfaces that people
Yeah,
are
there's
more or
too
less
many.
accustomed to.
There's too many possibilities.
depends on the
Not only
person.
that, every month, every new one's coming out.
Yeah,
they do
You
come
know,
out.
so it is what it is. You just the dealers might be able to be more helpful, guys, headphone dealers, with that because they sell these things, and they would know what's the latest and greatest. You know,
We've used a handful of the high-end portables, and they work pretty good. They do a good job. Some
Yeah.
of them are very impressive, but generally speaking, the very expensive ones are the ones that are impressive. So
and
you're spending thousands.
And in that being said, they still can't compete with a good desktop system.
Right.
You just can't. You plug a power supply on a wall, you got relatively for a headphone unlimited power.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between plugging in a wall and running on a battery for when it comes to audio. You know.
Seems to be.
Yeah. So anyway, good question. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care of yourselves.